Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. Today we are discussing 9-Month Contract by Amy Daws. But before we get into that, before we get it going, I gots to warn you, I gots to let the people know that we are crass and unhinged. We're terribly unladylike, and we're going to talk about all of the naughty times using all them 4-letter words.
Mama, dada, baby.
That's a little...
Not at all. Most of those aren't.
They are 4-letter words.
They're all 4-letter words. So, yep.
And they're used in this book.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there.
Anyway, Wiggs, what's this Amy Daws lady all about?
Well, you see, Amy Daws is #1 Amazon and USA Today best-selling author who writes spicy love stories that take place in America as well as across the pond. She's been known to pen her steamy novels in a tire shop, tires to be exact, waiting room, and that experience inspired her rom-com Wait With Me, which was turned into a feature film on Passion Flicks. When Amy's not writing, she's likely making charcuterie boards from her home in South Dakota, where she lives with her daughter and husband. So the series we're reading is Mountain Men Matchmaker. She also has her Wait With Me series. Her first book, the one we read for today, the 9-Month Contract, just came out in March, but already she has her next book coming out in June 17th, which by the time this releases will already be out. So you can double dip.
I think that March date is her getting traditionally published with this book. Because I think it was originally indie published, and then she got picked up.
Look at her go.
Go her.
Also, she's speeding them out though now. Like she's got it going, because then in November or December of 25, she will have Honeymoon Phase book 3 coming out, and then in May/June of 26, she's already expecting book 4, which is just Mountain Men book 4, so she doesn't have a title for that one yet. But yeah, she used to make ads for TV. She's apparently obsessed with Gilmore Girls. So, just a lady on a mission to add more spice in the world, and who doesn't love that? So, Danny, what is this book about?
This book is about a mountain man who has decided that he is ready to become a father, but he does not want a relationship. And so he decides he is going to go the surrogacy route to become a single parent. He lives on a mountain that he owns along with his 2 brothers. Each of them have their own cabins and everything, but he does actually own the entire property. And so he has now been rejected by the surrogacy. He's gone through 12 different interviews and nobody has picked him, or he hasn't picked them. He doesn't really like any of their vibes or anything. And his niece decides that she's going to take things into her own hands and is looking for a surrogate for him, but she has ulterior motives because she also wants him to get married. Mm-hmm. And so she runs into our lovely bachelorette outside the surrogacy place and decides that this is my girl and talks her into it off the street. It ends up working out. He agrees and they get her pregnant with ranch cups.
Yuckers.
And it's an image I can't get out of my mind. But she is in her quest to, because she is going to be paid to do the surrogacy thing, she wants to create a animal sanctuary for animals that are not like dogs and cats. She wants to be able to do exotics and barnyard animals and everything that get abandoned because of neurological problems, or people just can't keep them anymore. And so she wants that kind of place because there isn't somewhere. So that's her plan. Mm-hmm. But shenanigans ensue.
What? That's never happened in any book we've ever read.
It has never happened in any book we've ever read. We do want to say as a kind of warning that we know nothing about surrogacy. We are not experts in this whatsoever, so please don't take anything we say as any sort of authority on it. We're not good at that. We don't know. And only one of the three of us has ever been pregnant. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
The author does have a big kind of blurb, I guess, in the beginning where she talks about that she did get a lot of consultation from surrogates or people who are close to that. So hopefully that means that most of the book is relatively accurate.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot of talk about the legal process of it, and I did actually really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we can talk about more. Let's get into the book.
First question.
Mm-hmm.
The most important question I have. Anytime that you go out to eat now and you get those little cups of ranch, how long is it going to take you to get over the concept of it being filled with semen?
So long.
I mean, I already wasn't like a huge fan because a lot of times it's the mayo based stuff, and sometimes it's like so mayo-y I can't get past it. Like I just want to.
It is true. Wiggles hates mayo.
I hate it. And part of the reason
sad.
I hate it is because it's got a very just like consistency a lot of the time. That's not the reason I hate it. I hate it because I don't like undercooked eggs. But, I'm just saying sometimes I'm not wrong. Sometimes it's too thick for that, right? But like sometimes with that thinner shit you get at a restaurant, you're like, ooh, nasty. So to answer your question, never.
What about you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I got over the cookies and cream ice cream and the
That's
cotton
true.
candy. And what was in the second one? I don't even remember.
Cotton candy. I haven't read the third one
The
yet.
third one.
Yeah, that's one of the first trigger warnings is that you might not like cotton candy anymore.
I don't. That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, if I can get over what's in the Ruinous Love trilogy by Brynn Weaver, I think I can handle.
I don't think it's gonna stop me, but it's definitely gonna like jump into my mind for just a minute. I'm gonna be like, God damn it.
While we're on this tangent, the worst though isn't cups of ranch. It's whenever you get like wings, specifically like boneless wings that are covered in Parmesan garlic sauce. And sometimes that's the perfect jizz consistency.
Correct.
So
You're right.
You're right.
Okay, but
Thanks.
since we're on the topic,
Yeah.
can we talk about how B-Dub's like spicy ranch is the best sauce that's ever existed? Just saying.
what does that do with the
haven't had it.
jizz?
Nothing. I just wanted to comment on ranches.
Okay.
So anyway,
Anyway, back to this book. I do think, though, just like starting it off, so we open up with this like ridiculous Craigslist post that Calder, who is Wyatt, our male main character's brother, puts up asking, for a surrogate. And I read that at first and I was like, I really hope that this is not a serious, I mean, it's a serious post, but like, I hope there's a joke about it. And there are plenty of jokes about it. And that made it like, that made it really funny. Especially after finding out that Everly, his niece, is the one who's kind of masterminding all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the crazy plan really only works when a teenager thinks it's a good idea.
It's true. And I love that her like the thing that makes her like her brain scratch is spreadsheets. She's like, I can spreadsheet anything. Spreadsheets don't fail me now. And I'm like,
I get that.
I do.
ma'am, I love you so much.
Especially like a formulated spreadsheet. Oh, that's sexy shit right there. I will say this also to the post and everything like that goes on that's horribly embarrassing to this poor man is like they act like the town is out of pocket for gossiping about these guys, and I'm like, you give them so much to eat, why would they not come to the feast? What the fuck? You put this fucking crazy ass Craigslist post out there. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be talking about that for the next 10 years. Like what?
Well, and the three brothers also have a history of just coming to town off the mountain and causing some shit.
Yes,
It's true.
like yes, do we only have 4 brothers? Yes, but this, I loved the 7 brides for 7 brothers reference at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
So every time they came down from the mountain, I was like, oh, they're just here to stir up some shit and take a wife. Like,
Yeah. It did give a lot of the like werewolf romances though. In the beginning I was like, is this, obviously I know this is not a paranormal romance, but this is exactly how those ones go.
It's true. That's why my recommendation is a paranormal,
I figured it would be.
because that's the vibe I got.
I will say, while I really liked the character of Everly as the like meddling niece and everything like that, I didn't, and this might have just been because I did the audiobook, didn't like her having as much POV as she did, because, and this is why I think it's the audiobook issue, is the voice actor did a very good job overall, but not a good enough job distinguishing those two voices. And so I was like, ugh. It wasn't bad at the beginning when I was like, okay, that's what Everly sounds like. But then when we go back to her, I was like, you sound too much like the romantic lead, and I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I will say at the beginning I was a little concerned, only because it does kind of start out with Everly. I was like, so who's the romantic lead here for a minute? Just like it got there, it's fine, absolutely not, But there was a moment where I was like, very young. And he's supposed to be her uncle. And
Oh, you thought it was going?
no.
I was afraid for just half a second.
I have a different book for you if you want that vibe.
I do not want that vibe.
Okay, but I
Thank
know
you
the
very
exact
much.
perfect book, and it also is a Mountain Man book. So
Is it Credence?
yeah, it's Credence.
I've been avoiding that one for a while now, and I eventually know I'm gonna cave and be mad at myself.
I did find it really odd, though, just how much time we spent with Everly's POV, and then we don't meet Trista until like 15% away into the book or something like that.
Yeah, it takes a while to meet her. That's why I was slightly confused too, because like we hadn't gotten any POV from her side of the thing until she actually meets Everly. Like there's nothing from before that.
No, nothing at all.
And all the backstory we get is pretty limited. Like we get way back history, and we get 5 minutes ago history, but we don't get any like a month ago history of where she was at and how she's gotten to this place in her life.
And how she came to the decision to become a surrogate, because that has to be a lot of consideration and everything.
Yeah, all we get on that account is just that she was kind of at her final kind of like options to get money to be able to pay for animal sanctuary and kind of figure her life out.
Yeah, and she was losing her home.
Oh yeah, she was losing her home because she brought a pig home.
Yes,
Yeah.
a potbelly pig named Reginald.
Like you do.
As you
know?
do.
He's just 50 pounds. Like whatever.
There are dogs bigger than that.
It's true.
There are.
And pigs are actually very clean in spite of the bad rap they get.
It's true, and they are also super intelligent.
They're like right below dolphins.
And most importantly, they're super cute.
They are
They are.
super cute.
Once upon a time when I was so little that I could not tell you any detail about the situation other than I found myself on my grandparents' farm and they had piglets, and it was the best day of my life up to that point. And it was very cute.
I actually have a very similar situation. I don't even know whose fucking farm I was on, because I'm not a farmer. I'm a city girl. I mean, as much as one is in this state. But we were on a pig farm for whatever reason, and I got to see piglets be born, and I got to see other little pig nuts. They would not let you touch them, and I was very upset about that.
That's a right bummer.
They screamed if you tried.
Yeah, also, I'm guessing Mama Pig not going to be friendly
Yeah.
about that. So anyway, so our girl Trista she's got hot mess energy, but girl boss attitude.
Correct.
And so that is not something that the male main character is really ready for, I don't think.
No. She's also fiercely independent. To the point where she doesn't let anybody ever take care of her.
Which I get.
She doesn't have much of a filter either, it seems.
No. If it comes to the top level, it's coming out of her mouth.
I would just like to say that I felt called out a lot in this book and didn't appreciate it at all times.
By which parts?
Just impulsivity on certain levels and not letting people take care of me on certain levels too.
Yeah, that one hit.
That one hit a lot, and I was like, okay, fuck you.
I love people taking care of me. I don't know what you guys got.
That's
I'm
because you
here
have
for it.
a loving husband.
It's not like a new thing.
I know.
The letting people take care of me. I'm like, if you want to do that task, knock yourself out.
No, but I understood her. Like, I feel like I'm expecting you to do this, even if I have, or I've made you think that I'm expecting you to do this, even if I've never at any point said I want you to do this. In fact, I've told you the opposite. And so when you continue to do it, I feel like I'm putting you out, which then makes me feel like I need to go do something for you. So then I'm like, ugh, now I got to figure out something to do, as if I don't have enough shit on my plate. And it's like the whole thing of him trying to help you is that you have too much shit on your plate. So like, just let him. And then it's a vicious circle. I get how she got there.
Yeah, I as do I. Like I said, I felt called out a couple of times in the book, and I was like, hey, shut up. Don't talk so loud.
Yes. And except that she kept talking louder.
Yep.
I don't want to say I felt called out, but I really related though to a lot of her thoughts about like her size. But I appreciated that it wasn't just like, oh, I'm always going to be bad or like down on myself because of my size. But it was also like, but that doesn't mean those thoughts just go away. I think sometimes in a lot of books, we either get plus size characters who are really down on themselves about their size, or we get characters who are just like unabashedly like
super body positive.
Right.
Which, don't get me wrong, I love, but I can try to be as body positive with myself as I can, but there still is times where I'm like, ugh.
Well, and there's also times too, like for me, when you just recognize you're not the like super well put together, your hair's all curled, you got all the like fucking perfect makeup and outfit on, and you're like, that's not only is that not me in this moment, it's just like not me as a person. Like I'm never gonna be like that because I don't got the energy or give a fuck to curl my hair all the time.
Correct. Well, there was also a moment where she's thinking about Everly's stepmother, Cozy, and she's also a plus size woman, and she's like, she has the thought process of why can I think beautiful thoughts about how gorgeous she is and I get down on myself, and that is totally a thing that happens.
Yeah, the other thing I like about Trista and like the description of her and her body is it feels like it's also a unique body type that you don't get a lot in books, right? Like a taller woman who is fuller, has got more like tummy, got more thigh, maybe some more ass. But she reminds me, just like the description of her, of a lot of people that I know, like myself, you know, it's a lot of times in books, it's and in shows, if you have a bigger, more voluptuous woman, they're also like shorter. So that kind of balances it out somehow, I guess people say or think, or maybe whatever.
Which is actually kind of weird because usually a taller woman wears it better in my thought process, but I'm also short, so that might just be my own shit.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Like not in a call out way, but like I think plenty of short, curvy women, yourself included, are very sexy.
Oh. Wigs, we'll talk about that later.
I'm slowly seducing Danny on this podcast. Anyway, so here's the thing. I saw recently a video talking about this book, and no like shade to the person who was saying this, but they were in all appearances in their video a thinner person. And they were saying that they thought some of the like negative self-speak that she had was like really toxic. And I was like, I know that like obviously people of all shapes and sizes can have body issues, right? But I don't think I get really frustrated when you finally get stories like this, which feel very authentic and feel like it's either somebody who has lived this experience or somebody who at least knows enough people who have lived this experience to speak to it with authority, write something like this, that just because they show the ugly truth of it, that's like toxic. And I'm like, no,
actually, I feel like it made me at least feel a little more included, because it is showing the moments where you have self-doubt and you think about yourself in a certain light. But it also wasn't over the top, whereas some of them are so down, and that's why I don't like those to a degree as well, because it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, drop it. Where these were just nagging thoughts for the most part in the back of her mind when or he said something at one point and she took it a completely different way than he had intended.
One of my favorite parts in the book is when he and this actually happens a couple of times, so it's not like one part, but she's talking to him about like the way she looks, and he's, you know, giving her all the compliments. You're beautiful, you're gorgeous, yada yada yada. And she's like, she laughs it off and like pushes it away, and eventually he like catches her on that, and he's like, why do you think that I wouldn't be attracted to you? And she's like, you know, kind of gives a like gesture, like, look
She
at
gives
me.
the "you pointed at all of me" situation.
Yes. And he's like, don't you think that's a little like internalized fat phobia? And she has to sit with that and go, yeah, you're probably fucking right. Doesn't mean I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's true. Like there's, that's probably one of the things I struggle with the most is I can accept me, but I have a harder time accepting that other people are going to accept me because more often than not, they don't. Like, and so when you do get somebody who comes into your world and is genuinely complimenting you and not just trying to bolster your confidence or make you think that they are complimenting you, but really they're just trying to like butter you up to get whatever the fuck they want. Like, it's hard to trust that.
Well, and on the other side of things too is we have very different perceptions of ourselves sometimes. This occurred with the three of us not too long ago where I said something and you guys were like, you know, that's not true, right? Like I don't know.
Well, and I think this book does a really good job of showcasing how you can be a confident person, as she seems to be in a lot of ways, and still have like these glaring insecurities that just kind of like pop up here and again.
I think it's also worse for those of us who were bigger especially in our younger years. Like there's not an amount of weight that I could lose. There's not a look that I could achieve where I would ever be completely clear of those insecurities.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because it's been ingrained in me since I was like 9-10 years old. Right. And that kind of thing is always going to regurgitate itself back up. Like you definitely can heal from that and like spend a lot of time working on yourself to feel good about how you look 99% of the time. But you're always going to have those flare ups where you're like that little kid who felt like they weren't worthy or didn't have enough value because of the way they looked. Rears their ugly head again.
Yeah, those moments where it hit your feelers weird and now you're having to deal with that internally again.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that Trista has to face is, and it comes up a couple of times in the book, is she never has really had a serious relationship. She's never even had much of a boyfriend. And, you know, there could be a multitude of reasons for that. But when you have always been a bigger person, that is one of the factors. And you can never kind of like take that away from not having those experiences. And I think it definitely comes up a lot in this book, just how unfamiliar with relationships she is. And that on some level is connected back to how she views herself or how society views herself.
Well, and on her side too, she didn't even really have anybody that she's close to. She's got nobody. There is nobody that's ever really like built her up.
Yeah.
And so she's amazing in that she has built her up in so many ways. But of course she has insecurities about things. And of course she doesn't understand how normal relationships, familiar relationships, anything happens because she's never had that.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely a very extreme case of abandonment and lack of emotional security at the start of this. And, you know, but obviously, you know, Wyatt has his own issues that he is processing that we later on get to learn more about. But she's coming to the table with about an entire train car's worth of baggage. And all he's seeing is the like little carry-on that she's brought on. And I like that is slowly addressed and unpacked and like dealt with, because that's how we come to people. Like we've got all this garbage behind us, but we're going to show you is this little controlled piece of the things that we are, good, bad, and ugly. And so I like that they were like slowly reaching back into that train car and pulling out another bag when they had the ability to do so.
I also love that. So, she was really abandoned and pretty neglected growing up and everything. And there's many things that she didn't realize were not normal until she got older. And she still has she puts inappropriate comments into moments and then has the, oh shit, apparently that's weird. All the time. She'll just say something out of pocket and she's not trying to get sympathy. She just made a comment, and then his family, which are very emotionally supportive and everything and very in each other's lives, are like, what the fuck?
Well, it also kind of felt like, at least I guess maybe just for me reading it, that Trista probably has not addressed a lot of the issues that she has. And when you go that long without kind of addressing them and working on them, they just kind of explode sometimes. They just come out.
I actually really enjoyed the conversation between her and her sister towards the end of the book. When she made a comment and her sister was like, oh no, they right fucked us up. They right fucked me up. And I'm sorry, but I also kind of abandoned you because I needed to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I appreciate that she owned that and at the same time understood that she can't live for her sister either. Because unfortunately, ultimately, her sister wasn't her responsibility. I do wish she had stuck around because she left at 18 and I think Trista was still 16.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is I like that there wasn't just a happy little bow on at the end. Her sister didn't show up like when she had the kid or anything like that. She's still kind of, the relationship doesn't just change. You've had an epiphany, but that doesn't just magically make everything better.
Do I think they're probably on a way for a better relationship? Yeah, probably, but it's not a magical thing. I think they maybe will talk a little more than they have been. But also I think her sister lives abroad.
She lives in Hawaii.
Oh, she lives in Hawaii. I was like, I feel like there's an ocean, but
there is.
Yeah,
there is.
Yeah, I also like that we had that flash of her sister. Technically you could have the book without her sister being a presence there, but I liked what she was adding to it in terms of giving us background without us having to have a flashback or something like that you could get very quickly. This reflection that very clearly Trista is trying to avoid.
But it's all just a big contrast to Wyatt. And as much as his family is, I don't know if I want to say perfect, but they're very close. They all get along for the most part. Even he talks about Max, the oldest brother, not kind of getting along as well with the three brothers who live on the mountain, but still he's there all the time and they have poker nights and stuff. But at some points I was also are we going to address that this might be a little too clingy, you guys?
We kind of do. We eventually get to their backstory, which I'm going to ruin now.
Do it.
Do it.
Where there's this chick named Robin who's fucked them all up because she comes into town as a newbie, which in a small town means that you're hot stuff by default. You have to be the kind of person who's literally wearing the same dirty clothes for a week straight for people not to be ooh, new and shiny. But so she comes into town and all three of the single brothers are hey, and she's loving the attention and ultimately ends up living with them on the mountain, flirting, fucking, in general, making a whole mess of things. And then later on, even further down the line in the book, we find out that she was pregnant and was sort of implying that she was going to claim that it was Wyatt's, but it wasn't any of the brothers. It was this ex that she had.
Except I think they said that she wasn't actually divorced from him. She just had a husband and kids somewhere.
Yeah, which is crazy town behavior.
Well, and it's not even just that she was living there and fucking all three of them. None of them knew that the others were involved. And that was the biggest betrayal to all of them, is because she wasn't being honest with them. And if if they had the conversation of, look, we're seeing other people, fine. It's still weird to go with all the brothers.
Well, and they also had a pact between the three of them that they wouldn't sleep with her, and then they all broke it. So it was also a betrayal, like,
to them,
to each other.
Yes. And there's also the element of each of them, to a certain degree, had feelings for her. It wasn't just sex. It was each of them at some point in the process of falling in love with her, if not falling in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so when this all falls apart, they decided that never again. We're gonna be tough guys, brothers, bros who never can be broken. And so they have their dark night, which the whole time I was like, before we find out what it is, I'm like, the fuck is that? Bad vibes. Like one of the running jokes was Trista trying to figure out whether the flags were beige or red. And I was like, that's a red one. That's a red one. I don't care. That's weird.
Well, until we find out it's just them. Was it like Labor Day weekend? They go on a boys trip. And it's like, okay, that's chill. Until
the two not having a baby boys, decide that they're going to go to a sex club. And Wyatt's like, what the fuck?
Wyatt's like, no.
Well, and I can understand that. Like, I don't want to go to a sex club with my siblings.
No.
Even if, like, Calder, the middle brother, was like, well, we're not going to be in the same room together. And it's like, you're walking in and that's enough.
You're walking in with the understood assumption that your siblings are going to do something sexy. And that alone that's a pass for me.
Yep. Ugh.
And also, doesn't it defeat the purpose to go to a place and then do a bunch of activities separately when it's supposed to be like a bonding trip?
Yeah, the other things that they did sounded, fun and bonding. I think they went skydiving and
fishing in Canada.
Like, at least those were things where they actually got to, like, spend time together. It's not like they could talk while skydiving, but it was still an experience that they did together. Sex club, weird, abrupt difference, and negatory Ghost Rider.
And what are you going to do? Get back in the truck when you're done and be like, hey, what happened in your guys' room? You're going to we're not talking about it.
Oh.
No. And then it just becomes a, like, Vegas story that you're like, it never happened.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yuckers. Also, like, there's also, like, a factor of, I don't think Wyatt would just want to be there at all.
No.
And so there's also, it's not quite a consent factor, but, like, if it's you're breaking our bro bond by doing this,
it's kind of a consent factor.
Yeah, a little.
Well, he's being coerced into doing it.
Yes.
And while once they get to the sex club, he could, I guess, just
sit in the cuck chair. Like, ew.
Yeah, but still, that's still participating in a sexual activity if you were doing voyeurism and all that.
Yes. So what's he gonna do? Turn around and, like, cover his eyes and ears and just wait till
time has
passed?
I guess. Just read a book in the corner.
I don't think those things are well lit usually.
That's why you got to get the Kindle with the backlight.
You're so right. You're so right.
As Liz and I both reach for our Kindles.
Yes.
I have a very old generation of Kindle, but it keeps turning on, so I'm not going to replace it.
Fair enough.
I get that.
I want to talk about Trista's animal obsession. I love that she just keeps randomly bringing animals to the island, and the chapters are all named something like, it's like weeks pregnant 6, animals on the mountain 2 ?
Yeah, the chapter titles were really fun. Yeah. I gotta say, they were super fun. That's where the ranch cup's full of semen won.
Which you snapped me a picture of, and I had not actually started the book yet. And so then I was just like, what?
You'll get there.
And she was like, this is the book we're reading. And I'm like, start that right now.
So that encouraged you to start the book?
I needed to know.
Curiosity kills the cat with you, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But back to Trista and her animal obsession.
So she originally brings the potbelly pig up to the farm because it's a bonus. She lives above in an apartment above a barn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, except she wanted to have the pig in the apartment.
Yes, and
which Wyatt said no.
Negatory.
And I can understand that. There's a good barn right there.
Yeah. He's fine.
He makes a very, like, this is a consistent problem with Trista throughout the book. She keeps forgetting that she is either going to be or is trying to be or, is pregnant.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I can do all these things. It's like, no, you can't.
Ma'am.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, Wyatt is like, when you're pregnant, you can't lift him anymore. And she's like, oh, well, yeah.
Obviously, I was only going to do it for the first couple of weeks, Wyatt. God.
Better he get used to the barn now. And he was just like, the pig cave, no shits. He's like, this is great. I love it. And Wyatt does have a Nigerian dwarf goat named Millie.
This book taught me that goats need companions.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I did know that, but that I'm weird.
I thought they just had twins a lot.
They do have twins a lot. And sometimes triplets and quadruplets.
Yeah.
And then she also brings, the first other animal she brings is she sneaks a bunny into it.
Well, that's a safe animal. Like it's just a bunny.
It's just a bunny. The bunny's name is Strudel, which I love. And then she brings, is it Handsome that's next?
No, the chickens are next, aren't they?
One of them too.
Pretty sure it's the chickens.
It might be the chickens. No, I think it's Handsome because he's like, she brings him and he's like, no chickens. And she goes, no chickens. All right. And then like not too much longer, he walks in and he goes, Trista, where are the fucking chickens? What?
What? Why would there be chickens?
I
That's
heard
so
a fucking
crazy.
rooster. And then the chickens get attacked in the middle of the night.
You know, that, like, I was enjoying Wyatt up to that point, like, because by then they were like,
Uh-huh.
but I wasn't like, oh, I'm in love with this man, he's dreamy. But then when he stayed up and like saved her chickens, as many as he could, even though he fucking hates birds, and then proceeded to build them a better enclosure, I was like, that's the kind of energy we need.
I know. I was like, oh, sir.
Yeah, I was like, goddamn.
The fact that he stayed home and was building them a better enclosure in the rain when he already had them like in the barn and they were going to be fine in the barn for the day. I'm like, sir,
yes,
you could have waited until it wasn't raining anymore. But no, he was like, I'm going to fix the chicken enclosure for her.
Yeah, it's always a massive green flag when it's like when as a partner you're obsessed to something or you care really a lot about something and your partner is like, I guess I care about it now too.
Yep.
Who knew I liked chickens? Now I do.
Also, just, you know, chickens are kind of assholes.
They are.
Like, they, especially if you're trying to chase them down, they're like, great, I'm gonna run faster now, asshole. So he was describing how it took him like 20 minutes to chase him down. I was like, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
You know, correct.
And then she also brings the cat home.
To be fair, the boys called her to get the cat, so that
It's
one was not on her.
That's
Which
on
is
them.
why she named it Milkshake, because they brought all the boys to the yard.
I did appreciate all of the animals' names.
Yes, because it was Sir Reginald.
Yes.
But there was something deeply adorable about a grown man calling this little kitten Fuzz.
Yes. It's like, can I see Fuzz? I knew that cat was going home with Collier.
Oh yeah.
Wait, how did you pronounce his name?
Collier?
Collier? Oh, that's not what I read.
I listened to the audiobook and I still have no idea. No idea.
I listened to the audiobook and they called him Collier.
It's spelled Calder. That's what it looks like in the book.
I'm sure it does.
This is why-
Anyway, his book's next.
his book is next when they go to Mexico for the wedding.
I'm assuming it's going to be
Dakota.
Dakota, Everly's friend or whatever, that they seem to hate each other.
Cozy's best friend.
Cozy's best friend.
Yeah, she's an adult. Not a graduated from high school.
She's
adult.
a divorced adult.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Age appropriate.
Yes.
Because that is the other nice thing is that they, like, there is a little bit of an age gap between Wyatt and Trista, but not hugely.
I think it's
It's like 9 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
but-
38 and she's like
29, I think.
okay, yeah.
But still age appropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're 29 you can date a 38-year-old.
Yeah.
When you're 22 you cannot,
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
in my mind.
Well, and it's a perfect example of when the youngest of the party gets to a certain age. That's when the like age is nothing but a number starts to happen.
Yeah.
But you got to be like on the last swing of them 20s in order for that to be true.
Correct.
That's my line in the sand.
Yeah,
You should not be 24 and dating somebody who is 50.
No, I
Stop
feel
doing
like you
that.
got to be at least past 25 before that stops becoming an issue.
Yeah.
Your brain's got to be done cooking.
Yes.
Technically, and I read this in an article, so take that for whatever you want, your brain actually doesn't stop growing. But when they did the original test to be like, when does your brain stop growing? And they thought it was going to be super early, like 20 or 18 or something. They just stopped the study at 24 because they were like, it's not stopping. So as far as we know, your brain never stops.
No.
Whoa.
You got to have more experience.
Yes.
You have to have a prefrontal cortex.
Yep.
That's something you don't have.
Yeah.
When you're a youth.
But so they do get her pregnant
Yeah.
very quickly with ranch cups full of semen.
I love the fact that this entire book is them just flailing about, like thinking they know what they're doing and then getting to the moment of having to do something and then being like, so what are we doing here?
Or this is more awkward than we had intended it to be. He's going to jack off in a ranch cup and then she's going to put it in her and masturbate.
That is, I don't know why, but that part took me out. I was like, especially because she was like describing it like a medicine tube.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I don't know why that pipette imagery was not doing it, was like doing it a weird thing in my brain. I was like, I don't like it.
I don't know if I didn't like it or if I don't have a breeding kink, clearly. But I am the one of the three of us who has been pregnant and no desire to do so again. And maybe that just made me go a little bit, but
Let me just put it this way. I was really glad when they got past that stage. I was just like, I can't put my finger on why this is giving me major ick, but it is, and I need it to be over.
I didn't have that reaction, but
I most of the time in my romance novels don't like when there's a pregnancy involved.
I don't usually either, but when it's like known ahead of time, like that's what this is gonna be, that's fine. But when there's like a oopsie doodle, we're pregnant now, I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Go away.
That's mostly me too, but I don't know. Also, the describing like the morning sickness and stuff, been through that, and that is definitely a thing. And her talking about how like cleaning the stalls and stuff made her really nauseous because of the smells. I was a fucking basset hound when I was pregnant. Everything bothered me. Everything. I can't imagine mucking out a pig stall. Chai tea made me vomit.
I actually really liked the way that the pregnancy trope, aside from the initiation, was done. Because it felt like, yes, obviously there was a pregnancy and a baby's going to come at the end, but it felt an awful lot like a marriage of convenience.
Yes.
Story.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Instead of the like surprise baby that we often get. And so it was enjoyable to have this forced proximity and also this thing that's connecting them. And, you know, it was a vehicle for unpacking issues that both of them had. I was getting very nervous and scared towards the end of like how this was all going to play out, with her especially having this line in the sand of not wanting to have any contact with the baby.
Yeah, I agree. And once we got past, again, the creation of it, I was completely fine with it. The forced proximity was nice because she is living at his place, but not in his place. And I really appreciated that there was the separation, that like she lived in the apartment above the barn. She really didn't go up to the house like ever.
Not right away anyway.
Yeah, until they like actually started fucking. And even then, he usually came to the barn.
Yeah, most scenes were held in the barn or around the barn. I think I was really interested to figure out how they were going to, and perhaps nervous is the best way to say it, get past her not wanting to have kids or have a family of her own. Because the one thing I don't like is the like, oh, you're pregnant now and now all of a sudden you magically want to have kids. Like, that's not how that works.
It's not, trust me.
But having to actually go through like and have her unpack all of the reasoning that she kind of felt the way she did made it feel more genuine and realistic that she would stick around.
And I actually really appreciated how they did it because when the subject is approached, it's not her saying, I want to be this kid's mother. I want to be, super involved in everything. She was like, can we change up the contract? Can we have it so that I can be semi-involved in the child's life? You're still going to be the father 100%, have full custody to all of that, but I want to be a little bit involved. And that's when he was like, no, you in it, girl. But I appreciate that she didn't come at it being like, well, I'm going to be the mother.
Yeah.
And no choice. Like, I really appreciated that that's not how she went about it. It wasn't a 100% flip. It's like, hey, but I have feelers about this situation now. Can we discuss it?
Yeah. And then there's Wyatt, who does things like very 0 to 60 on everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, we're going to keep a line in the sand. And then now we're going to fuck. And then now I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
Like, the man falls so hard.
Yeah.
Very. And quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before he even knows he's in love, he's in love. Also, jumping way ahead to talking about the epilogues. One thing I will say with all of this is I feel like the author dropped the ball on this is Wyatt's the one who wanted to be the dad from the beginning. And so what I wanted to see at the end, like there's that bonus second epilogue where she's like doing her thing with one kid on her hip and calling the other one down the stairs. And I was like, Wyatt should be doing that. Wyatt should have one kid on his hip and like be managing the other one while she's running around.
I don't think I got a bonus second epilogue in the Kindle version.
Oh.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
She started the sanctuary and they now have 2 kids. It's been 5 years since the end of the book. And she's like, hey, can I get you anything before she's going to go pick up reindeer?
Yes. 9 reindeer.
9 reindeer.
9 of them, huh?
And she called their first child down to see if she wanted to come with. She's come pick up the reindeer. And she's like, do you need anything while I'm out? And he goes, another child? And she's like, we have a rule. 1 baby while they're in diapers. There cannot be a second one until they're out of diapers.
That's a pretty solid rule, I feel like.
I feel like that's very
It's
fair.
a very logical and well thought out rule.
Yeah.
We can't have another one until this one's pooping in potties.
Yeah. So anyway, I just needed more of Wyatt being the primary parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was disappointed in that because I was like,
I wanted him to like, okay, I'm going to take this child from you. You can take our first one to go get reindeer because she wants to.
yes.
I did like in the epilogue that I got that Trista is still the same person as she's walking outside with her like mobile breast pumps on her and just flashing Wyatt in the middle of the mountain.
To which his brother walks up and about has a heart attack.
My eyes. And she's like, okay,
I'm a cow.
Let's talk about I'm a cow because that kept hurting me over and over and over when they would say it.
Like I think that was kind of the point though.
I mean, I don't disagree.
Because of like I get the cow referencing a cow, like, right, you inseminate a cow, you have a cow, now you have little cows, but of course that term is also used for fat people, so it was a big old double entendre there.
Well, and it was intentionally on her part dehumanizing herself.
Well, she needed to do it to separate from the situation.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine being in that situation. I genuinely can't. Like, I can't put my brain into that space. But I'm sure there has to be some level of that where you go, this is like, yes, it's my body, but it doesn't quite feel like my body because it's going through all these changes. And then on top of it, like, I have fully written off all connection with the baby when it comes out. Like, that's all got to be like wild.
Well, and it does come up a little bit in the book about how it's, it's Trista, it's her body. It's she has like it's hers, but Wyatt is also in this awkward position of being like, but you have my baby. And I do like at one point Trista stands up to him and is like, this is still my body.
Yep. Well, and the other thing about the whole, giving the baby up and everything, they have a contract. They have it all set up into turns. They've gone through extensive procedures to get all of this in place. They've had counseling from both of them, went to counseling, which honestly is very realistic, I feel like. Because I know you have to go through certain like psychological tests and everything when it comes to becoming a surrogate, because otherwise you have the potential to really hurt the quote unquote adoptive parent or the other parent, especially if you're being a surrogate and they're not genetically tied to that child at all.
Yeah.
Like that is really rough on people if you do that. And so that's why there's usually, I think, extensive testing to make sure that you're going to be able to emotionally handle it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I really think outside of the context of her falling in love with Wyatt, she was ready to do that.
Correct.
Give up the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and was ready for it to be a no contact. You know what I mean? Like, I think it, even with them falling in love at the end, I think that in her mind, it still was, I'm happy to date you and see where this goes, but I am not signing up for this to be my baby either.
Correct.
Like, I think she's taking it in the situation of, I still want to have contact now, and that's the change for me. But
it eventually, I think, grows into it. But I also really appreciate that realisticness of it.
While we're talking about the surrogacy business, the other thing that really pissed me off is the fact that Trista was also rejected from the surrogacy clinic because her BMI was too high.
Yeah, BMI is a fucking bullshit thing.
It is.
it's literally pseudoscience. Like, it's been disproven over and over and over again to be a metric of health. And they're still like, but it tells us something, which is that you're fat and therefore you must be unhealthy. And it's like, no, I am unhealthy. It's not because of the BMI. I promise you, BMI is not causing my migraines, my guy.
I've flat out told my doctor's flat out told me, he goes, ignore that. It's not true. You're fine. There's so many things that are not taken into account for BMI, breast tissue being one of them. I am a big chested gal. And it is not because of my weight.
Right? Like,
muscle mass is also not taken into consideration.
Correct.
yes. And so you can have professional athletes whose BMI is like through the roof. And it's like, I think that maybe the person who runs for hours of the day probably is healthier than somebody who just happens to be skinny.
Right. I've seen people.
What the fuck do I know?
I've seen people talking about it, and there was a gal I watched on TikTok who was clearly thin, like she was thin. And so her BMI, and according to anybody who looked at her, she was very healthy. And then she like brought out everything she eats in a day, and I was like, all of that is junk food. And she's like, yeah, I'm not healthy. My insides are not healthy.
Yes. Anyway, no, I wasn't surprised by that, because I do think there is this big stigma, and in that you're less likely to get pregnant, or you're more likely to have pregnancy complications because you're overweight. And it's like, that's so much more, like, it's one piece of a very big puzzle, and it doesn't necessarily mean fucking anything. Like, there's always other factors that are contributing to that. And the way that some of these doctors will just tell women that the way for them to get pregnant is to lose weight is one of the most insanely frustrating things.
Absolutely. Well, and while there is certain things that if you are a little higher on the weight side, that gestational diabetes is a higher risk on certain things like that. But BMI is such a fucking joke.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything. They were concerned about gestational diabetes for me. It did not end up being a thing, thankfully. Also, not fun to test. I'll give you that one.
Well, and thin people can also get gestational diabetes. That is the hardest thing to say. Fun fact.
Gestational diabetes?
Don't say it with such confidence and make me look like a fool.
The other one that pisses me off is geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah. Well, and the irony is that's just pregnancy now. Yeah. Like, women are just choosing to have kids older. Yeah. Because and why the fuck wouldn't you? Like, the idea of confidently going forward at the same age that my mom was to have a kid, I was not in a place where I could have managed my own life, let alone the life of a little tiny human at 25.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That's crazy town.
I gave birth at 26.
At 25, I was living in a shared apartment with a house with a 4-year-old, working as a scenic painter for like less than $14 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
You just want to be more established, and a lot of people want to be more established before they choose to have children, which I think is a good thing.
yes, because you don't want your kid to lack.
Yeah.
Like the reason that if they come across difficulties, it shouldn't be because you are starting them off with difficulties built into the life you have. And I totally get that.
Well, and that's the cycle that Trista went through.
Yeah.
Her parents were not financially established. They were also into cults.
Yeah, that was a really interesting thing to just like pop up later in the book about how her parents would just run off to like their religious cults.
Yeah. I was like, oh my, I want to know more about that. But I also am a culty bitch. Like,
You're not in a cult.
I'm not in a cult. Absolutely not. I do know somebody who was. But I like to do research on cults. I've been ADHD hyper-focusing on cults a lot lately.
Uh-huh.
And so I was instantly like, oh, tell me more. I'm like, that is not the book you are reading right now, Danny.
No.
Although I do think there is like a common thing that happens, which is whether it is within the cult itself and the children are separated that way, or like that her parents did with the abandonment, like that is a really common thing going way fucking back. One of my favorite crazy cult stories is actually that Louisa May Alcott's dad joined a fucking cult. And it's like, and just was like, bye family. And that's part of why she started writing, because she was like, I need to earn money for us to be alive. Anyway, but that's a whole other thing. But it makes sense in the way that she's telling her story that you were an afterthought because they were chasing the high of whatever the spirituality was offering them. And so to them, children were just weighing them down.
Yeah. And that's part of cults too, is that they try to separate their members from people on the outside that could tie them to the outside. And their children evidently were one of those things.
But even when her parents were there, they were awful. Like she
Yes.
talks about emotional abuse, physical abuse, making her stand outside in the rain and panhandle when she was 8 years old.
Yeah, they were never good.
No.
Have you all seen that group? I think they even are on TLC, that family that makes their kids go out and panhandle.
I've
No.
seen things about them on TikTok.
Yeah, they make them be street performers.
Because their one child got into Juilliard and they decided they all wanted to move to New York with her. So they have like, I don't know, it's like 8 kids.
Yeah,
Where are you going to live in New York with 8 kids?
exactly. And the mom like refuses to leave New York City proper. Like the dad's like, we could at least live in a suburb. She's like, no. Anyway.
And she takes them all out and makes them panhandle on the streets. They're doing street performance.
I don't like this.
No.
Yeah, no, me neither.
No. Instantly not a go.
And the child that did get into Juilliard's like, I don't want you here.
Of course not. You want to go live your life.
Yeah, you want to go be in college because that's what she essentially is.
Yeah.
Right? Well, and they're also like, of course, they're Fundy Christies.
Yeah.
They always are.
Getting back to Wyatt and Trista, one of the things I like about them early on is, in fact, their miscommunication, because Wyatt is just like, I just want to do nice things for you here. And she's like, bitch, no. And it's just a really fun dynamic to read. Like he's like, I saw that you ate a croissant and you liked a croissant, so now I'm getting you a different flavor croissant every day. And I'm like, where do I get one of these?
I know. I don't want a relationship and would still feel smothered, and I would be like, give me the croissant.
See, Danny, you need this relationship, except like you guys continue to live separately. Like
Yeah.
you continue
That
to
would be
live
amazing.
across the driveway from each other.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
would be perfect. I will stay in the barn.
think
you
maybe
live
we
at the
gotta
house.
quit calling it the barn at some point, though.
The apartment. You'll stay in the apartment.
But I like the barn.
God.
Anyway, so I really enjoyed like him just struggling at trying to like do his version of like his love language, and her rejecting it on every front.
I also love that he begins to do it like sneaky wise.
Yes.
Like he puts snacks in the barn like they're supposed to be for him. And he's just like, you're not, he finally is like, you're not eating the snacks.
Well, and he also
She's like, and I never was. If they went missing, that wasn't me. It's like, you fucking liar.
yeah, and he also fills up her car with gas,
Vacuums it out.
vacuums it out. But I can understand, like, so we talk about Trista being independent, so obviously that's part of this, but also I can understand her at some point being like, are you doing this for me or for the baby?
Yeah.
Like, where's the intention
Where's
here?
the line here?
Yeah.
And to a degree, also trying to keep some composure of difference between them.
Yeah.
Because it would make it more difficult in the long run if he's constantly doing these kind of things for you and everything. Like, I get he is definitely crossing the line in certain ways, and that is his purpose. He's not doing it for the baby. He is doing it for her. To a degree, he's doing it for the baby as far as the feeding is concerned.
Well, but I also can understand his perspective of like the woman who is currently pregnant with my child is just right over there and I'm supposed to ignore her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I, you know, from her perspective, it would be really hard not to constantly have the feedback loop. And she does, you know, have these thoughts at times of, well, is he just like always weirdly nice
Yeah.
to women?
Yeah.
Because he's really nice to his mom. He's really nice to this, like, his niece and his sister-in-law. And so am I just another woman who happens to be in his sphere?
Yeah.
Well, and just in general, Wyatt's family is super nice to each other.
Yes.
So yeah, she's a fish out of water for sure.
Yeah. She doesn't get it. She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I talk to my sister like twice a year.
Well, and Wyatt is muddying the waters by not accepting his own like emotions about the situation until well after. And so he's constantly telling her like, no, this is just me being nice. It's just normal nice behavior. And it's like, well,
Bitch, no, it's not.
no. I think too, when they have their little breakthroughs or breaking points where they're eventually like, fine, I will let you be nice to me. It's very satisfying.
When he has when she was like freaking out about something, I don't even remember what specifically it was, and he finally was like, and guess what? I'm putting gas in your car and I'm going to vacuum it out and you are going to say nothing. I was like, like, sir.
Well, fine.
Well, it's because as much as Wyatt doesn't really want to address his own shit, he does like to call Trista out on her shit.
Yeah. Which is rude.
Well, she needed it.
She did. He also needed it.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is his brothers kind of call him out on his shit a lot.
But, you know, they eventually hit their breaking point where they just got to fuck.
Yeah.
Well, they were dancing around that for so long.
Yes. Yes.
They were both a little disappointed that she got pregnant, so they couldn't try it the old-fashioned way without the ranch cups.
Yes. It's still gross.
I'm glad that they didn't, though. You know what I mean? I'm glad that the first time they had sex wasn't this planned, like, we're just doing it to get you pregnant thing, because it would have been really kind of uncomfortable to read. I don't think I would have been able to get into the sexy times of it all.
Yeah, but the first time they do actually fuck is in the barn.
Again, I appreciate a moment where you're like, we've held back too long. We can hold back no more.
And
we
we're
can't
not
even make it
gonna
upstairs.
Get up to the apartment. We're going to fuck in the barn.
Except that they often can't get it up to the apartment, and they end up fucking in the barn or in a kitchen or in like some other awkward compromising place.
He makes a joke that he made eye contact with Reginald when they first start fucking in the barn. He's like, I accidentally made eye contact with Reginald, and he's looking at me very judgily.
But I still am feeling it. Still here for my dicking down my lady. I also love that his whole shtick is like, no, out here on the mountain, there's no inhibitions. You just get weird with it. And you're I'm like, that's not what I was expecting. Why? I feel like you have been burying the lead.
Oh, he gets very possessive in the bedroom. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay.
No
I
complaints
like me.
on that.
When he told her to bite down on that belt,
That
was in the poker night when they're all...
Because again, they keep doing this thing where they're in compromising situations and then just give in. And it's like, you can wait. Like, these people are going to be leaving in a couple hours. You can fuck then.
Yep.
right. Like, it is.
So the guys took... Hey, let's go look at the bench.
No, the worst part is Everly had to do that. And the one brother, I can't remember which one it was just like, why would I want to look at the bench again? I already seen it. And she's like, go look at the bench. And I'm like,
He's like, why would I need to look at the bench? I made it.
yeah.
Get the fuck outside.
He's like, get your ass outside or I will beat it. And he's like, okay, my God.
She has them so whipped.
Yes.
Also, she made them all Swifties, and it makes me so happy.
No one woman should have all that power.
It's true.
I appreciate the fact they're all Swifties. Appreciated all the references.
I appreciated the video
Yes.
of him just really getting into it and singing along. That made me very happy.
I love that she, reveals that she's seen the video, and he's like, what the fuck?
Well, I think she even makes reference to, what'd you do with your bracelets afterwards? And he's like,
She's like, how many bracelets did you trade
Yeah.
for? You were stacked, is what she said. He's like, what the fuck?
"That was
Who
never
showed,
supposed to
which
see
one
the
of
light
those
of day."
fuckers told you? And she's like, Everly showed me a video.
He's like, God damn it. Now I can't be mad anymore.
This is the worst.
Yeah. Those poor men's.
Oh, yeah. She has them wrapped around her finger.
Well, apparently she's the one who concocted the scheme to get her dad and her stepmom together, which is a book you can read. You can go out there and read that story about how Max fell for his
Nanny.
Yeah.
There you go. And, apparently she's the matchmaker on the mountain. So she's going to be coming back somehow in the next book.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to be at the wedding, so she'll
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has them all pegged. She has a spreadsheet for each of them.
If I was one of the women in that situation where this teenager is making me is pushing me to fall in love with her uncle, I don't know how I would feel.
I loved the reveal at the end. She's like, I knew I had it in me when she's about to get on the plane for Ireland. She goes, well, I had ulterior motives. And she's like, wait, what?
What?
Yeah, Trista does not believe that Everly concocted this scheme. At least not anything more than just, her being a surrogate.
She's like, how dare you?
But getting back to the sexy time.
Uh-huh.
Once that floodgate opens,
There is a lot of sexy time after that.
it's so immediate that they're like, this is not going to be the only time, that they have to make an agreement about when they can fuck.
Which is every other sundown.
Correct.
That does not hold out very long
No.
before they just be deep dick fucking all over that mountain.
No.
Well, and it's supposed to have the expiration date of when the baby pops out.
Because that ever actually works.
Right?
No.
I will say, though, in the book, the fucking be fucking for a really good chunk of the middle, and then it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
And towards the end, I was like, there's no more sex scenes? What?
Yeah, I wanted at least one more.
Yeah.
Well, this is another example of the book suffering from going, okay, now they're happy, so we're done. And I'm like, okay, but give me a happy fucking. What?
That should also be a requirement in these sexy books. There has to be one more fucking at the end when we're all together and happy.
Even if it's the epilogue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Put the kids to bed and then be doing the fucking.
Right.
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 I think a lot of books have actually just ruined that expectation for me because some books have really good sex scenes at the end.
Oh, yeah. I love an epilogue sex scene. I'm like, oh, tell me more.
Right? Because there's nothing but it's just there for sex.
Yeah.
It's not a scene that's trying to deliver you much more information. It's just fulfilling the promise of more sex.
Although I do like it, especially in books like this, where it's every sexual encounter that they've had up to that, even if it's a really positive experience, there's this element that makes it less stable than after you finally have admitted all the feelings and you have talked through like what you want to do going forward, and being able to relax into that. It changes the dynamic. Even if it's just a little bit, it does change it.
The one thing though about like once the sex happens, Wyatt is basically just fully like he's all in.
Oh yeah.
It takes his like brain to catch up a little bit with the hey, you're in love with this woman, but he dives all of the way in. But so does his family. Like they are all just like, nope, Trista's one of us now.
Absolutely. The guys become very protective. They have that moment at the bar where apparently some of the locals are taking bets on who's baby daddy or whatever, and they're calling her a whore, and all three men's end up in a fist fight in the middle of the bar to protect her honor. And she's like, Jesus Christ, guys, I don't actually give a fuck. Shut up.
But she also breaks down because like it was the first time anybody actually stood up for her.
Yeah. And then also I love his mother makes her a quilt.
Multiple, actually.
Yeah.
Because there's that big scene that like triggers them having to have this conversation about like, okay, actually, maybe I love you. Shut up. Where his whole family decides that they are going to give her very thoughtful and considerate gifts for
At the gender reveal.
Yes. And she's just like, holy shit, motherfuckers. I'm not used to this much love and affection. I got to dip. Like, this is a lot.
Yeah, because like Collier makes her hand makes her a chair. And Luke gives her a foot warmer thing.
Yes.
And then his mother makes her another quilt and everything. And she's like, isn't this for the baby? And she goes, oh no, honey, that's for you. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so cute. And then she runs away, and he's like, I'll be right back. He's like, I know you don't like gifts. And she goes, I fucking love gifts. And that foot warmer is amazing. Did you tell him my feet are always cold? I love that she just word vomits it out.
Yeah. She's like, actually, I fucking love this. I'm just messed up, and you just need to look past that. But I'm actually really happy.
Well, even before the gender reveal, Everly wants Trista at her graduation party, and Joanna, the mom, again has already given her one quilt,
and not cutesy,
cozy.
Cozy is very instantly welcoming to Trista, and is like, do you want to go through my old maternity clothes and all of that? Like instantly is like, I'm gonna do my best to, if not befriend you, be friendly to you. And again, people have not treated Trista well.
No. And quite frankly, she's a little ball of sunshine. She makes me laugh.
Well, I think Cozy was really great because while she was a family member, she was still a little bit of an outsider.
She's not a blood-related
Yes.
family member, so that does help because she's been on the outside of
Yes.
the growly men that...
Well, and she also had a taboo relationship being the nanny and ending up with Max. Wait, isn't that the name of Mr. Starfield in The Nanny?
It is. It is. Good call. Good catch.
Got it.
The other thing that I did really like that this author did, I think, particularly well, and maybe I feel that way more because it had it felt very natural for the type of dynamics that exist in the Midwest, is all the background little quirks that her family had. Like at one point, Wyatt just throws the kid, I can't think of what his name is, but Ethan just directly into the pool.
Just launches him.
And she's just like, what the fuck? And everyone's like, it's fine.
It's like, oh, he's fine.
It's fine. Or Luke accidentally shoots off the gender reveal
Yes.
and gets it all over himself. And I was like, that is every family reunion encounter ever. There's always somebody doing some fuck shit.
Yeah.
Well, and also when you're the new person to the group, everybody congregates around you and has to check on you so many times that you're like, did I fuck up somehow? Why are you constantly checking on me?
Yes.
What did I do?
Yeah.
All those little things that she had in the background were the perfect flavoring. I almost wish there was more. So I'm hoping that there's more in the next book.
I'm sure there is. They're all stuck in Mexico together.
Right? Somebody's going to do some stupid shit.
God,
God, the gender reveal canon makes me laugh every time.
Right? I can picture it visually.
Yeah,
so
just
strong.
the hot pink dust all over him. Oh,
Yeah. Just like one of those people in a color run, only it's only pink.
yep.
And just like,
And then Everly screaming at this hot pink man.
right? I don't know that this is actually her like character description, but she reminded me so much as a character as a student that I once had that was the only person I could like see who Everly was. And I was like, you gotta like kick that out. She just kept coming back. I was like, well, all right, you win.
Yeah. And after the gender reveal, everything kind of happens pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that they named their daughter Stevie Everly.
Which is super cute.
It is super cute.
His father's name was Stephen.
Yes.
Well, and that's one thing that's like flavors everything, but it's not really a plot point, is that their dad has recently passed.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all kind of still feel it deeply, and that they lived a lot of their life by the lessons that he taught them.
Yes.
And so it's a big missing point in their lives.
I also love that their dad, like, he's not up on this fucking pedestal. Like, at one point, Trista's talking to Wyatt about his dad, and she's like, do you think he'd be proud of you and all the stuff that you've done? And he's like, no. He would be like, why are you doing it wrong?
If that's
he's like,
not...
he'd be proud of me too, but like he would be chewing me out for that.
Not outwardly.
And then I remember this part distinctly. He's like, he would tell me that I'm not doing it fast enough or good enough or whatever it was, and then I would later on catch him talking to his buddies with like pride, describing what I was doing, and I'm like, that's a Midwest dad if I've ever heard of one.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the end of the book.
And at the end of the book, I don't know if you guys know this, but sometimes it's ratings time.
I was aware of that, yeah.
It's new to me.
Really?
Yeah.
We've been doing this far too long for that to be new to you.
What's y'all's romance rating?
I thought they were cute. I actually kind of gave it a 4. I liked I realized that the fucking like came and went like real quickly, but they actually did kind of build up to the romance with actually getting to know each other, which isn't all that often in romance books.
Yeah, I feel like we maybe didn't really talk about the romance a lot, but that's because instead of having like big date nights and stuff, they had these forced proximity, like just situations where they're constantly being put together and just being super cute and fumbling, but also trying to be considerate. And I liked them a lot as well. I think I'm going to go with a 3.5.
I'm also going to go with a 3.5 because Wyatt is like a 4.5 on the romance scale.
Yes.
And Trista's like a 2. Like, just, she's like actively trying to not be romantic. And Wyatt's like, but what if I romance you anyway? Croissants. She's like, fuck your croissants. Actually, that's fucking delicious.
Yeah, I don't know how she was strong enough to ignore his everyday breakfasts. Because at some point she's just like, no, I can't give in. I can't let him know that I'm like appreciating and relying on him.
So she just ignores the breakfast for like 2 weeks, and he's like, yeah, I fucking know. I know you're ignoring it. Eat it.
I'm such like a lazy bitch that if somebody's like, I have free breakfast for you, I'm like, cool.
They bring in donuts to work like once a week, and I'm always like, oh, look, mine now.
Well, especially if they were like as delicious as described. Like, I'm sorry, you're dropping off a croissant outside my door. I'm gonna be like, that is mine now.
That now belongs to me.
Listen, it was left without expectation, which means you get nothing. I get croissant, you get nothing. That's on you.
And that's what Wyatt wanted.
And for some reason, she couldn't get with the program.
No. Just because we're talking about the romance, the one thing we didn't mention was Avery.
Oh, yeah. She has a friend who's a veterinarian.
Yeah. And Wyatt does not like it.
That's true.
Because he didn't realize for a long time that Avery was a man.
I didn't either.
Same. She's like, I must have said it. I'm like, bitch, you did not.
No, you did not.
Liar. Constantly catching you in lies. I mean, like, I get it. He was kind of a useless foible, but it was fine. It showed his possessiveness so that we all
Yeah.
knew what was up.
The man's possessive.
Oh, well, and Avery didn't love that she was getting it on with Wyatt then either, but
I probably would be in Avery's position. If I was
Yeah.
her friend, I'd be like, girl, this is too messy.
Like, you should be doing not that.
and my concern would have been you're gonna end up getting hurt in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, which was a really strong risk.
Yeah.
Like, from her perspective, she doesn't know he's got feelings until the very end. And so all these cutesy things could just be Wyatt's a nice guy.
Yep.
So what's your spice rating then?
It's actually fairly spicy for a contemporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got after it for a while.
They did get after it for a while. I'm gonna give it a 4.
I'm going to give it a 3.5 just because when it was spicy, I was like, oh, damn, this is going to be a 4. Depending on how this goes, it could even go higher. But then it just like died. And then
Yeah,
I was left
actually,
wanting.
I take that back. I'm gonna go 3.5 as well because it did kind of just.
I
Yeah.
think I'm still going to go with a 4 because of the amount of the book that was just spice.
Yeah.
Fair.
Or was preamble to spice.
Yeah.
It wasn't an overly long book either.
No, and I would argue, like, I don't know if it was like about, like, I would guess like 380, maybe 360 pages. And I would say at least 100 of them pages are just smut.
Yeah, the audiobook was only 10 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And the smut was also good.
It was
I enjoyed it when we were there.
They got wild. They went wild and out.
She bit a belt.
They were literally in there with the animals. Rawr.
He made eye contact with Sir Reginald.
Yeah, so I stand by my 4.
Fair enough. What's your overall rating?
I give it a 3.5. I enjoyed the storyline and everything, and this is probably just a preference on my part, I'm not a big pregnancy situationship thing, so this is just, I think that's more just a Danny thing than a feeling of the book thing.
Yeah. So when I suggested we did this book, and it's called 9-Month Contract, which you can imagine what that name is for, I didn't put 2 and 2 together until we got much closer, and I was like, I hope they know what we're getting into because we're going.
Because we never do a pregnancy one, and we needed to mix it up.
No,
I thought this was intentional.
I picked it because the author is from South Dakota, and because it was kind of getting some traction on TikTok, which also means we didn't talk about the controversy in this book.
Controversy.
So do you remember the scene where she is, I think it's when they're in the bar and they're talking about the fact that Wyatt just bought her a bed. And she is comparing the softness of the bed to foreskin.
Oh, I don't. That was not in the audiobook.
No.
Oh, then it got edited out of the audiobook. Okay. So in the book, there's a moment when she's talking about how soft the bed is, and she's like, it's as soft as baby's foreskin. And then she goes off and is like, well, not that I obviously know what that feels like, but I know what like an adult foreskin feels like, and it's really soft, and then blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, oh, this analogy got way away from me. And there was a big controversy on TikTok of people being like, oh, that's so awful. That's what an awful thing to say. That's really gross. And where I kind of landed on it, and granted I knew going into the book, is it was a joke or like an intrusive thought she was trying to represent, and maybe it didn't land. But I mean, that happens all the time in books. And what the author did is she responded and she said, kind of explained her thought process in writing it, and then said, but I understand how this doesn't work for some people, and I'm working as it gets traditionally published to get it taken out. So it sounds like it got taken out.
It did.
I did
don't
not
remember that happening at all.
No, It didn't happen.
I mean, I get both her perspective and reader's perspective on that one. I'm very like 50-50. I except in the sense that it's very clear from what you're describing that was not intended to be like some gross like pedo kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like that was just, and like the thing is, your brain does do that shit sometimes where
Yeah.
you're like, I don't want to be thinking about this. I've thought about my own murder so many times.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it, but it goes there. And I'm like,
yeah. And that's what the author, from my reading it, and also what she said, was trying to get across is like, this is just an intrusive thought, and it's not, and it didn't land with the audience. So she was able to get it taken out.
You know, I appreciate that when authors can take a beat and go, I hear you, and I'm going to react to that.
I hear you. I respect what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make steps to correct it.
Yeah.
And she obviously did, because it is not in the audiobook.
Yeah.
And it might be in the physical book if you go try to buy the traditionally published book. I don't know. I know that's when she was trying to get it taken out. So any of the newer copies might not have it. But the Kindle version that I had still had it.
You would have thought that would have been the easiest one to take it out of.
I'm guessing it has something to do with they can't update the edition for a certain amount of time because Amazon, blah, 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 blah.
Probably.
Bezos! In case anyone was curious, my overall rating is a 3.5.
I was curious about that.
I also haven't given my overall rating. I gave it a 4. I was pleasantly surprised.
I could be talked up to a 4, but I think honestly the thing that brought me down to a 3.5 was just I didn't vibe with the Everly POV. And
That's fair.
And it just like, it took me out of the book whenever it would pop up. And I was like, if that had just stayed at the beginning, I think I would have been like, not a problem. But I was like, I don't want to hear from you now. They were having sex a chapter ago. Like, get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I don't know how much her POV was needed after the first 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But I definitely am looking forward to reading her next book. Well, the next in the series. She's got other books out. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Trista.
That brings us to recommendations. Who wants to kick it off? Who's got it?
I can kick it off. So this one is a little hard for me because, again, I don't do the pregnancy trope very much. But we read the first book of this series, which is one that I suggested for us to do for this podcast, which is The Greyback Bad Bears. The second book has to do with a pregnancy situation, and there is a little bit of the like forced proximity because she does come to the like camp place where they live and ends up living there because she doesn't really have any other place to go. And so it's kind of that thing. It is a paranormal romance. It is a bear shifter romance. So that is my suggestion. That is by T.S. Joyce.
Cool beans. Got one, Wiggs?
I want you to go first.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think you're going to suggest
I can
the one.
guarantee you I'm not going to because you haven't read the book that I'm going to suggest.
Oh, okay.
How do you know?
I like that you know my Goodreads better than I know my Goodreads.
Because I talked about this in our last reading wrap up and she would have mentioned something if she managed to read this book.
Okay.
And also I just know you.
Okay, so I'm gonna call back to a series that we've talked about and love quite a bit, which is that Lillian Lark bathhouse series with Hoarded by the Dragon.
Oh,
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
In this book, the main character gets knocked up right in the, like, we actively see the baby being made, like first chapter. And then from then on out, she finds out that her half dragon babies are apparently very difficult pregnancies, and you have to have your dragon daddy like keep you warm because dragon babies are cold-blooded creatures, but they need heat. I don't know.
They're heat leeches.
The mechanics of it, I didn't worry about.
It is the nice thing about a Lillian Lark. Sometimes you wait like half the book for a sex scene and then it's just deep dick fucking the rest of the time. And then sometimes you get it like chapter 1.
She's like, were you prepared? No, and you're welcome. The big difference here, other than the like monster element of it, is that the main characters did not expect to be in each other's lives ever again after the fucking, and didn't really know what to do with the whole pregnancy situation, and then like eventually like find themselves going forward and finding a way to like be in love, because there's also this whole like lost fated mate thing anyway. So Check it out if you're like, I want more babies, because there's a baby. And if you like Grumpy Sunshine, there's also that. And also, just it's Lily and Lark. So
We do love Lily and Lark.
Big facts.
Yep.
So my book is not a paranormal romance, but it is the third in the series, so it's probably not overly helpful to anybody. But I'm going to recommend The Path to Loving Him by Megan Quinn. And that one is about, so Gabby and Ryland have a one-night stand. So also we're having sex in like the first or second chapter. Yay. And it's very hot. And they think they're never going to see each other again. Only except Gabby ends up getting hired at the same school that he works at because he's the baseball coach and a math teacher. And she gets hired as the assistant baseball coach and another math teacher.
What is that? Like freak magnet? Like what is that?
But also when she gets hired, a part of like the situation is they find her housing, and the housing they find for her is in a really nice finished apartment over a garage that Ryland happens to own.
What is this?
So a lot of similarities. There is also a kid, but it's not a pregnancy thing. Mac is, I think, like 4 or 5. She is Ryland's niece, and he ends up having to take care of her after her parents die. So there's also a kid that Gabby ends up falling in love with, and there's just all sorts of shenanigans and many sex. They can't keep their hands off of each other. They keep just going, oh, this is the last time, and it's not.
Never is.
Yeah.
I actually have another one.
Yes.
Oh.
So there is a biker series that I've been reading recently, a motorcycle club series. It's the Screaming Eagles motorcycle one, and the second book has a baby element. She goes and has a one-night stand at the motorcycle club and ends up getting pregnant. Doesn't know whose it is because there's 4 of them. Rawr. And then she can't get back in to see any of them, so she ends up actually having the child, and they find out after the baby is like 18 months old. Secret Baby for the Bikers by Stephanie Brother.
Nice.
Well, the title's very on the nose, isn't it?
Yes. The first book in the series is called Taken by the Bikers.
I did forget to mention on mine, well, I said it was a third in a series, and like I think you could read it without reading the others. I think you'd miss some context, but I think you could if you really wanted to. Anyway, that's the end of the episode, folks. If you like this episode, you can find us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets, whether that's on TikTok or Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube and Threads and kind of wherever you want to find us. And then you can go to our website, wrongdustjackets.com, where you find a list of episodes that we've done, ones coming up, as well as our blog post. And we would like it, love it. It would make us so happy if you could please give us a like, 5 stars, rate, review, whatever is available to you on podcast listening app. It helps us in the algorithms. And that's all I got. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.